There's a truth we all know, yet often face only when it's almost too late. Life is shorter than we think. When we're young, summers feel endless, and days seem to stretch forever. But somehow, as the years go by, time begins to blur. One year fades into the next like pages of a calendar turning too fast. If you're over 60, perhaps you found yourself staring out a quiet window, wondering, where did the last 10 years go? That question isn't meant to bring regret. It's a reminder that you still have time, but it's not time to waste. You don't need to reinvent your life or start over. You just need to live with more meaning, one day at a time. In this video, I'd like to walk with you through the simple yet powerful ways we can make our time matter more, from nurturing relationships, rediscovering small joys, to taking better care of our health and purpose. There's no fixed formula, just gentle reminders to live with presence and clarity. If you're looking for small, doable shifts to slow down, feel more, and finally do something for yourself, then stay with me until the end. And if anything here resonates with you or brings someone to mind, I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more honest, heartfelt conversations like this. Because life truly is short, and we all deserve to spend it wisely without regrets. There's a quiet lie many people carry for decades. I'll start living for myself when the time is right, when the children grow up, when the house is paid off, when the schedule clears. But the years pass like waves, silent, steady, and without permission, and that mythical someday never comes. It becomes a shelf in the mind where we store all the things we truly care about, waiting for a future that's always one step out of reach. The hard truth is, it's not time we lack, it's attention. Time doesn't scream, it doesn't warn. It just leaves, and when we finally look back, we don't wonder where the hours went, we wonder why we didn't do more with them. There was a man, 68, who used to say, "When I retire, I'll pick up painting again." Art was something he'd loved as a boy, something that made him feel alive. But retirement came, and instead of painting, he spent his mornings watching the news, his afternoons tidying the garage, his evenings scrolling through headlines and grocery lists. 1 year turned into 2. The brushes stayed in the drawer. The easel gathered dust, and when someone asked him what he'd done since retiring, he paused, because he didn't have an answer he was proud of. Not because he did nothing, but because he hadn't done the thing he truly wanted. This happens more often than we admit. Life becomes a routine of obligations and background noise. We survive the day, but forget to live it. We tell ourselves we're too tired, too late, too unsure. And yet, what we're really doing is practicing emotional procrastination, postponing meaning in exchange for safety or worse, distraction. We think we need a grand plan to begin again, when in truth, all it takes is a quiet decision to stop. Waiting and start living, even in small ways. No one is asking you to transform your entire life overnight. You don't need to move across the country or write a book this month. But you do need to listen to that part of you that's been patiently whispering beneath the noise, the part that remembers what makes your heart beat a little faster, what brings color back into your days. That voice is not childish or impractical. It's your inner compass, and it's still pointing somewhere. Follow it. 1 hour a week is enough to begin. The longer you delay what matters, the easier it is to forget it ever did. And the deeper that forgetfulness sinks, the heavier regret becomes later. You don't want to look back one day and realize you were always almost ready, but never began. You don't want to count your life in years past, but in days fully lived. So here's the truth you've likely always known, but maybe needed to hear today. Someday is a ghost. It has no date on the calendar, it waits for no one. And if you keep waiting for it, you'll wake up wondering how the last decade disappeared behind you. You don't need a breakthrough. You need a moment of clarity. And if this is it, then let it be the day you pick something back up. The paintbrush, the journal, the walking shoes, the phone call. Choose one thing you've put off too long, not because it's urgent, but because it's yours. Start small, but start now. Because time is not slipping through your fingers. It's asking if you're ready to hold it. Time doesn't always move faster as we age. It just begins to feel that way. And the reason is simpler than we think. When every day looks and feels the same, our brain stops recording it. It drifts, it tunes out. We wake up, move through the hours, and by evening, we can't quite remember what made the day different from the one before. This isn't a sign of decline. It's a result of routine. The same breakfast, the same path, the same screen, the same news. When nothing feels new, nothing stands out. And when nothing stands out, life becomes a blur. But here's the beautiful part. There's a way to slow time down again, not by rewinding the clock, but by waking the mind. The human brain is wired to pay attention to newness. That's why childhood summers seem to stretch on forever. Every sound, every sight, every feeling was unfamiliar and therefore unforgettable. As we age, we mistake stillness for peace, but sometimes it's just our senses going quiet. What we need isn't more noise, but more presence, and one of the best ways to feel truly alive again is to do something unfamiliar. Not extreme, not expensive, just different enough to make the mind pause and take notice. There's a woman I know, 63, who realized that her days had started to vanish without warning. She wasn't sad, just numb. Every morning she walked the same route through her neighborhood. Every afternoon she read the same section of the paper. One day, without planning to, she turned left instead of right. The street was unfamiliar. The trees looked different. There was a bakery she'd never noticed before. That small change sparked something. She began switching things up. A different grocery store, a new cookbook, a book club she'd once ignored. Slowly, her weeks began to stretch again. Not because they were busier, but because they were richer. Time, she realized, wasn't speeding up. She had simply stopped noticing it. That's the quiet trick to feeling more grounded. Introduce small doses of novelty, a new coffee shop, a new recipe, a phone call to someone you haven't heard from in years. It doesn't matter if it's grand or glamorous. What matters is that it wakes you up. Because when you feel awake, time slows down. The day becomes textured again. The hours stop slipping and start landing. If you've ever wondered why the last 5 years felt like one long blur, ask yourself this. When was the last time you did something you didn't expect? Something that made you a little unsure, a little curious, a little uncomfortable? That edge of discomfort is where memory forms, and memory is what gives time its shape. So if you want to rediscover time, not in theory but in feeling, start with one small change. Choose something that doesn't feel like you. Choose it not because it's safe, but because it's slightly unfamiliar. Let your brain pay attention again. Let the minutes stretch the way they used to when everything felt new. You don't need to change your life. You just need to change the rhythm of it. Because when life starts to repeat itself too, often it's not time that's passing you by, it's you walking in circles. And one different step might be all it takes to see the road again. When people look back on their lives, they rarely wish they had spent more hours in meetings, answered more emails, or crossed off longer to-do lists. What they remember, what they ache for, are the quiet, often fragile moments that came and went without warning. Time spent holding a grandchild's hand, the way a breeze moved through the curtains during a slow Sunday afternoon. A laugh shared over something small and silly. But in the rush of daily obligations, those moments are easy to miss, and often they are missed for good. That's why the deathbed test matters. It strips away the noise and asks the most honest question of all. What do I want to remember when I'm 90? This question isn't dramatic, it's grounding. It brings clarity, because when you imagine the end, you see what truly matters. The late nights at the office won't comfort you. The unpaid bills may not even cross your mind. But the people you love, the memories you built or failed to build with them, those will speak the loudest. One woman, a mother in her late 50s, spent her entire career chasing deadlines, telling herself she'd make time for her daughter's school plays next year. That year never came. Until one afternoon, her daughter, barely holding back tears, whispered, "You're never there when it matters." That sentence shattered something and rebuilt something else. From that moment, the mother made different choices. She left work on time. She started saying no to weekend meetings. She was present. And that presence, quiet and steady, changed everything. But clarity without action is just regret in disguise. That's why you need to pause and ask yourself right now, What are the 10 things I truly want to do before it's too late? Write them down. Then, and this is the hard part, circle only. 3. These are your priorities, the things that align with your heart, your values, your purpose. Everything else? They may be important to someone else, but not to the person you want to become. Learning to say no to the urgent but unimportant is how you say yes to a life with meaning. This isn't about guilt. It's about liberation, about taking back the hours you give away too easily to tasks that leave you empty, about realizing that time once spent cannot be earned back. So if you feel like your days are full but your heart is still restless, maybe you're chasing the wrong things. Or maybe the right things have been quietly waiting for your attention. And here's what's often forgotten. Priorities aren't set once. They are chosen again and again each day. You choose them when you get up, when you open your calendar, when you decide what to ignore. You shape your life not by what you want, but by what you're willing to protect. The deathbed test is just a mirror. It reflects what will matter when nothing else does. If you don't like what you see, that's not a failure. It's a second chance. So take it. Slow down for what's real. Create space for what you'd miss if it disappeared. And remember, a full life isn't one crammed with activity. It's one aligned with what your soul won't regret. Because in the end, you won't count your hours. You'll count on your presence. You'll remember who you showed up for and who showed up for you. Most relationships don't end in dramatic fights or betrayal. They simply fade. Not because people stop caring, but because they stop showing up. We assume the bond is still there. We assume they'll understand. We assume time together can wait. But over time, assumptions become distant. And distance, left untouched, becomes silence. The truth is, closeness is rarely lost overnight. It slips away through forgetfulness, not cruelty. Relationships are like emotional bank accounts. Every kind word, every shared memory, every check-in is a deposit. But neglect, silence, and waiting too long to say, "How are you?" act as withdrawals. And like any account, if you keep making withdrawals without adding anything back, it runs dry. Many people realize this too late, when the connection is already weak and reaching out suddenly feels awkward. But it doesn't have to be that way. Not if you start small. There's a man I know, retired, living a quiet life. One day, he realized he hadn't spoken to some of his closest friends in years, not because of anger, just life. So he made a promise to himself. Every Sunday night he'd send one short message, sometimes a memory, sometimes just a thinking of you. In the beginning, he wasn't sure anyone would reply, but they did. Slowly, then more often. Within months, those messages turned into real conversations, laughter, phone calls, even visits. What had felt like a quiet goodbye to old friendships became a gentle reawakening. And it all started with a habit that took less than 2 minutes. People often underestimate the power of small gestures, but it's those very gestures that build emotional safety, that say, "You matter," without needing to say much at all. A thoughtful message, a song sent without a reason, a birthday remembered when no one else did. You don't need perfect words. You don't need to fix anything. You just need to appear consistently, even quietly. And this doesn't only apply to close family, neighbors, old classmates, even someone you used to see at the same cafe. Relationships come in many forms. Don't wait for a special reason to reconnect. The reason is that they exist, that once they mattered, that maybe they still do, even if life got in the way. Because when things get hard, and they will, it won't be your social media feed that lifts you up. It'll be the voice on the other end of the line, the familiar face who still knows your story, the person who remembers what you looked like before the gray hair and the careful smile. If something inside you has been nudging you to reach out to someone, listen to it. You don't need a deep conversation. You just need a beginning. Let them know you still think of them, that your connection hasn't expired. It's just waiting to be used again. Because in a world that often forgets to pause, presence is a rare gift. And presence doesn't always mean showing up at the door. Sometimes it's showing up in their inbox, their mailbox, or their memory, again and again, like rain softening hard ground. So today, think of one person you haven't spoken to in too long. Send something simple, a few words, a photo, a shared memory. No pressure, no expectation, just a reminder that they mattered once and still do, because emotional connection doesn't thrive on grand moments. It grows in the quiet, ordinary acts that say, I'm still here, and I still care. There's a strange silence that settles in after retirement, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that feels like something is missing. For years, your identity was shaped by schedules, responsibilities, and being needed. Then suddenly the demands vanish, the noise fades, and you're left with empty time and a question that rarely gets asked out loud. Who am I now that no one expects anything from me? Many people confuse this quiet with fatigue, assuming they're just tired from years of work. But more often, it's not exhaustion. It's a hunger for meaning. Rest feels good for a while, but eventually, the soul wants more than comfort. It wants purpose. There's a grandfather I know who spent his career in logistics, structured, efficient, and always on the move. When he retired at 62, he imagined long mornings reading the paper, afternoons on the porch, and slow evenings with television. It worked for a few months, but then came the restlessness, the feeling that time was passing, but he wasn't part of it. One afternoon, while watching his grandson play with clay, a memory surfaced. As a teenager, he loved sculpting. He had even dreamed of becoming an artist once, before life got practical. That week, with no big plan, he signed up for a beginner's pottery class. At first, his hands were stiff and his pieces awkward, but something lit up in him. 2 months later, he was teaching kids in the community center how to mold shapes from wet clay. His house is filled with little creations. His heart filled with something even more valuable, the sense that he was alive again. Purpose doesn't retire, it reshapes. It doesn't ask for applause or income. It simply asks, what matters to you now? Not what mattered then. Not what you were trained to do, but what makes you feel grounded, present, and useful. Sometimes the answer is buried beneath years of distractions, but it's still there, often showing up in the quietest of moments, when you lose track of time while tending to your garden, while humming a song you've never shared, or while writing thoughts you never planned to read aloud. Pay attention to the things you do when you're wasting time. They often hold clues to your emotional center. You don't need to make it a project. You don't need a business plan. What you need is to follow your curiosity, gently, patiently. Give a quiet afternoon to something that pulls at you, even if it seems trivial. Try drawing again, try building something. Try telling your story to someone who's never heard it. And don't wait for it to become perfect or useful to others. If it stirs something in you, that's enough. Because the measure of purpose isn't found in productivity. It's found in the feeling that your time has weight. Too many people wait for permission to feel purposeful again. They wait for someone to ask for their help, for their wisdom, for their creativity, but you don't need permission to come alive. You only need willingness. And the truth is, when you act from what gives you joy or meaning, it often helps others in ways you don't even realize. One poem shared at the right moment, one small skill passed down, one smile offered through something you made. These things ripple further than you'll ever see. So today, if you feel a little lost in the stillness, don't panic. The stillness is just space, waiting for something true to enter. Let it be something you've forgotten you loved. Let it be the thing you'd do even if no one noticed. That's not a hobby. That's your spirit calling you back. Answer gently. Purpose is not gone. It's just waiting for you to remember where you left it. Many people reach a point in life where they have more free time than ever before, yet somehow feel unable to enjoy it. The hours are there, but the strength to use them isn't. Days stretch wide open, but the energy to fill them with anything meaningful seems to vanish before noon. It's easy to assume this is just aging or something inevitable, but often it's not about the years. It's about how we care for the vessel, carrying us through them. The real barrier isn't time, it's energy. And if your energy is drained, no amount of free time can bring fulfillment. There's a woman I met, 64, who used to say she was too tired to do anything. Not sick, just exhausted. Her body felt stiff, her mind foggy, and she assumed that was simply part of getting older. But then her doctor gave her a challenge: walk for 10 minutes every morning, no matter what. That was it. No gym membership, no equipment, no pressure, just walk. The first week she barely managed a block, but she kept going. 6 months later, she walks an hour each day. Her knees don't ache the way they used to. She sleeps more deeply. Her thoughts feel clearer. The world hasn't changed, but how she moves through it has. It's a quiet but powerful truth. Movement gives back what stagnation steals. You don't need intense workouts or strict routines. You just need consistency. A short stretch while the kettle heats. A walk after lunch instead of collapsing on the couch. A few minutes outside to let your mind breathe. These aren't fitness goals, they're energy rituals. Simple, repeatable actions that return vitality to your body and clarity to your thoughts. And when your body feels alive, your mind is sharper, your emotions steadier, and your ability to make meaningful choices improves. But energy isn't just physical, it's emotional too. The wrong habits, late night scrolling, staying inside for days, conversations that leave you drained, pull energy away without warning. The right habits, waking up at the same time, letting sunlight in first thing, limiting what steals your focus, rebuild your reserves without much effort. It's not about doing more, it's about doing less of what empties you. Sleep, too, is sacred. It's not a luxury, it's not wasted time, it's the engine room, where your body heals, your mind resets, and your heart finds calm. One of the best gifts you can give yourself is a consistent bedtime. Not because it's strict, but because it teaches your body to trust the rhythm of rest again, and that trust becomes strength. So if you've been blaming age for your exhaustion, pause and look deeper. Maybe your body isn't failing you. Maybe it's just waiting for you to remember how to care for it again. You don't need to push harder. You need to move more gently but more often. Let energy become the compass, not the clock. Protect it like it matters, because it does. A whole day with energy is more valuable than a week without it. And the small things done daily make all the difference. Your body doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for your attention. Give it that, and it will give you your time back, not in years, but in presence. We often talk about life as if it's something that happens to us, as if it unfolds without our say. But the truth is quieter and more empowering. You're designing it, whether you realize it or not. Each decision, each habit, and each small action builds the pattern of your days. And no, it doesn't require a master plan or a perfect strategy. Life doesn't demand that you figure everything out. It simply asks that you participate willingly, curiously, and consistently. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to take the next step, then adjust as you go. There's a woman I know recently turned 60 who felt her days had become too predictable. Nothing was wrong, but nothing excited her either. So she gave herself a quiet challenge. Every week she'd do one thing differently. It didn't have to be big: a new recipe, a walk in a different park, a phone call to someone she hadn't spoken to in years. Week by week, the texture of her life began to shift. She felt more alert, more connected, more alive. Her world didn't get bigger, but it got deeper, and that depth changed how she saw herself. That's how change works, not in grand gestures, but in subtle shifts. Just like tending a garden, you don't overhaul everything at once. You plant a seed, you water it, you see how it grows. Some weeks nothing will sprout. Other times, a single act will bloom into something unexpected. The key is to stay in motion, to keep adjusting without needing certainty. That's what real growth looks like. Not dramatic transformation, but quiet momentum built on trial and tenderness. If you've ever felt stuck or directionless, maybe the answer isn't to overhaul your life. Maybe the better question is, what can I try this week that's new? A book you wouldn't normally pick up, a class you've always talked yourself out of, a small favor for someone who wouldn't expect it. These things don't seem life-changing in the moment, but they shift your rhythm. And when your rhythm changes, your sense of possibility returns. So don't wait until everything is clear. Start where you are. Choose something unfamiliar, something that nudges you just slightly out of habit. Let life surprise you, and when something doesn't work, don't quit. Adjust. A good life isn't static. It's shaped in real time by the courage to keep choosing again. That's how you avoid drifting. That's how you avoid becoming a stranger to your own time. Remember, even a beautiful life needs editing. Even a peaceful life needs refreshing. And even a long life without presence feels short. So if you want something more clarity, more energy, more connection, you don't need to wait for the right season. You need to test small ideas with intention. You're not repairing your life. You're designing it, slowly, gently, one mindful decision at a time. And it all begins with a question, not, how do I fix everything? But, what will I try this week? The answer doesn't have to be impressive, it just has to be honest, because each answer becomes a brushstroke. And over time, you'll step back and realize you didn't just survive the years, you shaped them. You didn't just live, you built something worth remembering. Time doesn't ask for permission, it moves forward with or without us. But how we spend it, that's still in our hands. From rediscovering joy in small habits to reconnecting with people who matter, every choice becomes part of the life we shape. You don't need to do everything at once. You only need to start, gently, honestly, and consistently. Whether it's protecting your energy, reawakening a forgotten purpose, or letting go of what no longer serves you, these daily shifts build a life rooted in clarity and calm. Remember, living wisely isn't about perfection. It's about staying emotionally grounded, making time feel fuller, and choosing what aligns with your inner peace. Even if life has felt blurry or repetitive, there is always a way back to meaning, to purpose, to connection. You're not too late. You're right on time to begin again. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your story. What are you choosing to do differently from today? Share your thoughts in the comments. We learn from each other. And if this video brought value to your day, don't forget to like it and subscribe for more grounded, life-giving content like this.